Today I'm going to show you guys how to change your acoustic guitar strings. Despite what you might have heard, I believe that anybody can do this. You don't have to bring it somewhere for, a luthier to do it for you. It's pretty easy, and you don't need too many tools. In fact, the only tool you really need is a wire cutter. I have a few different tools, though, that I'm going to show you guys that just help things go quicker. And of course, you need some new guitar strings. So let me show you guys what tools I will be using. Okay, so here we have strings. I use Elixir strings usually because they last. This is not a paid promotion, by the way, but I use Elixir strings because I find that they last the longest. They don't really get old too quickly. This is a peg winder and also a wire cutter. So cut them right there and then wind the pegs. This saves you a lot of time. It kind of cuts in half the amount of time it takes. If I need it, this right here is a device that lets you pretty easily take the pegs out of the guitar. Sometimes those can be a pain. We'll see if I can do it by hand. I'm sure I can do most of them by hand. Whenever I change my strings, I like to give the guitar a nice quick cleaning. So that is a cleaning product for glossy finishes. And then this is just a cleaning cloth. So that's all that we're gonna need, but you really only need the strings and that if you didn't care too much about cleaning it or if you didn't think you'd be messing up the removing of the pegs. All right, so those are the tools. First thing I'm going to do is simply remove the strings. I'm going to remove them from the tuning pegs, but I'm just going to let them dangle. I'm not going to take out the pegs yet on the bridge. All right, so I'm just going to use the peg winder, and we are going to remove the strings from the pegs. Turn it the way that it loosens the strings. Boom. I'm going to do that for every string. This is just so you guys can see it. It's probably easier if you put it on a table. Okay. And the other side. Last one. Okay, so the strings are all out on the top here. Now let's move on to the bottom where we're going to remove the strings from the bridge of the guitar. Here's the bridge of the guitar with the strings still on. We're going to remove these pegs. So this can be a little tricky. Sometimes they're just stuck in there. So I'm going to try to do them normally. And if I have any issues, then I'll show you how you can do that. Okay, it comes out easy. By the way, I'm going to line up the pegs on a side table in the same order that I removed them, just so that I'm using the same peg for each string when I put them back on. All right, they're coming out easy. Wow, okay, this is a lot easier than it usually is. Not that it's normally hard, but I have seen some guitars that they're really stuck in there. So one thing you can do if they are really stuck is I'm going to put my hand into the guitar and push up from the inside to remove it. And just to show you what this tool does for any pegs that are stuck, it's almost like a little bottle opener thing. You just pry it out. Very easy. I don't remember where I got this, but you can get them anywhere. It's probably like $3 or something. It has other gauges on here, but this is all I'm using right now. All right, easy enough. So we have all of the pegs out. I'm going to take the strings out as one just for ease of cleanup. I like to wrap them all together. Wind it a couple times. This is like the way that they pack new strings. I'm going to wrap them around each other because you don't want them poking through the garbage when you throw them away. So that's good right there. I'm just going to toss them. One more thing, it's good to have the guitar flat on the surface. You don't want it to be standing up when you do this. For one, it's a lot easier. And two, some bridges are not actually stuck in the guitar. Well, they are stuck in there, but they're not glued in or anything. So make sure that doesn't fall out. But if it does, check beforehand, before you even start changing the guitar, and make sure the orientation is correct. So that in case it falls out, you can put it back the correct way. All right, next I'm going to clean the guitar. I have that cleaning product for glossy guitars. Just make sure you read the directions on whichever ones you have. Sometimes you're supposed to not spray it right on the finish. Mine is fine to spray it on the finish, so I will. I know that on the bottom, around the pick guard here, is where it's a little dirty, so let's take care of that. Circular motions whenever you can. So this guitar in particular has a ebony fretboard. If you have a rosewood fretboard, which is a more dark brown color, then you can put lemon oil on it to clean the fretboard, but I'm not going to do that right now because you mostly just do that for rosewood. Definitely not maple. Maple neck guitars, you're not supposed to put lemon oil. It can ruin it. I did notice that the guitar had some dirty spots on the back and on the sides, so I'm going to clean those too. This is where probably a lot of sweat and water and beer end up. Yeah, just doing the underside too. Might as well do everything while we have the strings off. Even if you're not giving it a full cleaning, everybody always wants to get this area. The dust piles up under the strings over there. All right, I think we're good. So the next step is going to be putting the new strings on, one at a time, of course. So these are the strings I'm using, Elixir size 11s. On Acoustic, 11 is actually kind of a lighter gauge, so this won't be too hard on the fingers. 12 is kind of the typical. I'm actually dialing it back. I usually would use 12s, but I'm switching down to 11s. I'm going to see how I like them. Okay, these Elixir strings are individually wrapped into little envelopes, so that's how you know which string it is. This is the high E, B, G, D, A, and the low E. Usually on the package, it will say the gauge of each string. So in case they get out of order or whatever, you can refer to the package and figure out which string you're doing. So I like to start with the high E and just make my way across the guitar. All right. See, I told you they wrap them like this. So I'm going to unravel the string. Be careful you don't kink it up. Okay. I'm going to stick the string into this one hole, and when you put the peg back in where the crevice is, that's where the string will go. So make sure that that crevice is facing towards the neck of the guitar. All right, so put it firmly in there. I'm going to make sure that the string isn't really dangling underneath, and we're going to straighten it out and we're going to attach it to the head. So this is the high E string. I'm going to carefully put it into this tuner, the first one. All right, this is one of the most important parts. I have it pretty tight. You know, it wouldn't play, but I'm pulling it. So what we're going to do is push the string back like an inch or two, and I'm going to push it down with a finger before we start winding it. This makes sure that it winds evenly, and it makes sure, so if you pulled it and just wound it right away, it might be a quarter turn or whatever until it was in tune. So you don't want that. You want it to be wrapped around at least a few times. If it was only wrapped around a quarter turn, then it would go out of tune a lot, and it would be harder to tune it. So definitely do this. I'm going to hold it down until it's fairly tight on the fingers, and then I'll let go. And I don't have the peg winder in my hand, but I'm going to do the rest of them with the peg winder, so it should go a lot quicker. One more thing, too. Make sure that you are turning the tuner the correct way. On acoustics, you want these three clockwise and these three counterclockwise. The reason for that is because it's possible, let's say if you wound it this way, counterclockwise on this one, you might snap off the edge of the nut here. So we don't want that. And it's just the standard way. If anybody goes to tune the guitar, they'll expect it to be turned this way. So I'm going to get it pretty tight. We don't have to worry about it being in tune yet. I'll tune them all at the end, but we just want to get them kind of up to tension. That should be good right there. And we pull back an inch or two. Put it down. Now with the peg winder, it's going to go a lot faster. Also, when you're doing this, keep an eye on the pegs on the bridge. Make sure that they don't pop out. If it pops out a little bit, just push it down a little bit. I don't think they would fly out, but if you didn't put the string in far enough, then you might get something popping out, and you'd have to redo that string. All right, it's getting tight. I can let go. I got a little bit of popping out on the peg. Nothing crazy, but I like it to be tightly in there. All right, now we're just going to do this for all of them. Make sure that I don't get twisted up either. Every string has the slot in the nut that it will go to, so make sure you don't mix those up too. All right, we'll pull it back. Whenever I change strings, it's going to take longer because I'm making this video, but if I was really in a rush, I could probably do it in about 10 minutes, especially without cleaning the guitar. But if you take your time, 20, 30 minutes. When it's getting tight. Good enough. So moving on to the other side, I can kind of just kink the strings in the right direction that I want them to be. Since the strings are longer, it's not going to ruin them or anything if I do it now. To the D string. So once again, we're going to turn these counterclockwise. And if you think of it when you're taking the strings off, I did it for this one. If the hole is facing towards the neck, it makes it slightly easier. It might save you a few seconds per string. Whenever I'm paying attention to it, I do that. Oh, these ones are easy. It's on my side. So you can see how it wraps up nicely. And two more. Sometimes I do polish the frets on the guitar. I'm not doing that today, but I'll probably make another video at some point on how to do that. It is also easy, but you don't have to do it too often. Maybe once or twice a year per guitar if it needs it. So these thicker strings I favor a little more than an inch. We'll call it even 2 inches because they are thicker. They're not going to wrap around as much times as like the high E string. So, and be careful too with this stuff. You could poke yourself on the ends of the strings. And the last one, the low E. All right, so I have all the strings on now. All we need to do now is tune them a few times and then just cut off the excess strings. All right, guys, so I'm just going to tune the strings up to the right pitches. I'm sure you know how to tune. Make sure you know which strings are which. You don't want to tune to the incorrect string. So we do have to tune it a couple times. I'm going to tune them, stretch them a little bit, and then retune it until they are basically staying in tune. Alright, it's not fully in tune, but I'm going to stretch them anyway. Like this. Just to release some of the tension. Alright, it's close now. I will do it probably another couple times. You don't have to watch me though. And the last thing we're going to do is clip off the excess parts of the string. This is not a good angle to do it, but I'm clipping it off as close to the peg as I can. And make sure you don't clip any of the other strings by accident, like as it's strung in. You'd have to replace that string. So just be careful to only we're taking off the tips. And just like I did, we're going to throw away these ones. I'll put them actually in one of the envelopes just so they don't poke out. And there we have it. In tune. And it's good to play the guitar a little bit. Give it like 15 to 30 minutes of playing just to make sure that it's all good. And then, yeah, you're ready to gig or do whatever. All right, guys. I'm going to do some more maintenance videos soon for guitar, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.